Hello and welcome to Politics here on France 24. We're 3 days away from round one of the legislative elections. We had presidential elections a month or so ago, which saw the election of the socialist leader François Hollande. Now, the socialists are hoping to get confirmation with a win at those legislative elections and have a majority with which they'll be able to implement their policy. So, will they be able to win a majority in Parliament to discuss the issue today? With me, members of the two main parties in France, Helen Conway-Murray from the Socialist Party, Senator. Hello and welcome. And also on the set, Jacques Miard from the UMP, Conservative Party. Welcome to you too.
Hi.
So voting has begun actually for those French who vote abroad, who live abroad, and there are 11 seats. And the Socialists have been doing rather better than they hoped for. So the question is, does this mean they will do very well when the big majority of the parliament seats are chosen?
Well, we just hope so. The constituencies abroad had been formed so that we were told anyway that the right was going to win 9 seats out of the 11 available. However, the socialist candidates came first in 7 of them. So that wasn't sufficient, I suppose. I mean, the fact that they were formed in a certain way. And we just hope to capitalize on the election of François Hollande, of course, to give him a majority. But also, I think it was in the choice of candidates as well that we had chosen. They were chosen through primaries. I mean, that's a socialist way of, designating the candidates. But they all live in their constituencies. They all know them very well, and the right had chosen to present ministers, Monsieur Lefebvre, Monsieur Mariani, for instance, and I think the perception by those who voted there was quite different as to the type of person they wanted to represent them. So that's the explanation of the result, if you like. Of course, we are ahead in 7 out of 11, but we need now to regroup and make sure that we conserve and preserve the advance that we have.
You are right to be very cautious and prudent because, this is a 2-round election and things can change between the first one and the second one. I tell you frankly, this is a new kind of constituencies abroad. This is true that sometimes you go from Norway to down the bottom, So I think that, of course, there are not so many French who voted for this election. And that's a big surprise to me because the participation is about 10% or 15%, which is very low. So wait and see. But I don't think that you are going to win the 7 election. Even Mr. Lefebvre, who is second in New York, can win because when you see the forces, you will see the result. No, the main question that we have to ask is is Hollande, is Mr. Ayrault going to have a clear majority in the National Assembly? Nobody knows yet. Nobody knows
Jean-Marc
yet.
Ayrault being the prime minister, who was designated by
yes,
François
of course,
Hollande.
because it is true he was well known in the parliament. He's never been a minister as Mr. Hollande, and they are brand new in the office. It doesn't mean that they are not able to do it. I'm not saying to them they have no experience at all. No. Mr. Ayrault has a good parliamentary experience, but without any panache, no glory. He's a low-profile man. Is he going to have the majority? Maybe, but maybe not. And as I said earlier in a private talk together, I think that we have a good chance that they will be in cohabitation with the very left, because they are not going to win the election. The Socialist Party is not going to win the election by itself, and they will have a strong extreme left representation as well. And that will be very difficult for you. But I will be in the position and I will look at that. I say to you, have courage.
But does this mean that you've already conceded defeat? That
No.
you're seeing the left win with allies, not alone?
No.
But
I'm not. You have two possible issues. That we win, but it will be very short. That we are defeated, but very short as well, because all the polls show that it's a very balanced ballot. So wait and see. But all I know that on the very left, near the socialists, they will have a strong representation of the Front de Gauche, left front, with some Greens. God bless you.
It's going to be a difficult task. Before you answer, we'll have a look at the polls. There will not be a lot in the very last days of the campaign. It's a little bit more difficult to read polls for legislative elections than presidential elections, of course. So here we see the Socialist Party and the Allies ahead, some 10 percentage point, 11 actually, over the UMP, the Conservative Party, and its allies, with the far-right National Front scoring 15%. So the key issue is, first of all, win the election, but as Jacques Miard pointed out, how do you win it? Do you have a so-called absolute majority, which is 289 seats out of 577? And this is probably the best scenario, because then you don't need your allies, you can just act on your own. Or is it more realistic to think that you will win, but you will win with the Greens? There's already an agreement between the Green Party and the Socialist Party. And maybe you will need the far left, with which there's no formal agreement, which could indeed make things a little bit more complicated.
Yes, of course, but let's wait and see. I mean, we can speculate as much as we want. I mean, there you have 15% of the National Front as well on the right, which is going to be some kind of a problem as well for the right if you want to reverse and give you back the problem that you may have.
Everyone has got a stone in his shoe.
We may have a problem with the extreme left, but there is a more serious problem with the extreme right there within the assembly. No, at the moment, we're campaigning to win an overall majority, okay? François Hollande was elected on the basis of a program. If the French people want it to be implemented, if that's what they wanted, they will have to be logically voting for a majority that will support and see the implementation of the program. Otherwise, there's no logic in the first vote. However, it's true that participation is actually lower in the legislative than it is in the presidential election. All the time. It's even more, well, it's 20% actually abroad, not 10%, but 20% is too low anyway. So we have this difficulty of not knowing when you only have, I suppose, when you have too few people voting, it's difficult to know if it's just those who are convinced, and it could be those of the extremes, and then you have a bigger problem, but it's as much for the left as it is for the right. And you don't actually know where the center, which is another very important part, will actually vote. It's quite obvious that if M. Bayrou's party, the Modem, doesn't do very well, and that the people who would normally vote for the center vote for the right, because they're more or closer to the UMP than maybe they would be to the Socialist Party's program in any case, then we will see, obviously, an increase in the UMP votes.
Right.
But so you see, there are all these, you have the extremes, you have the center, and then you have the UMP and the Parti Socialiste. And it's impossible today, I think, to say exactly what's going to happen.
Do you both agree that there should be a clear majority with allies or without allies, rather than a parliament?
For us, there is, yes.
No, even, of course, I do understand your point, Hélène. But I would say I'm not combating to lose. So I combat to win, and we will see the results. So I'm not going to answer you this question. The people will decide who is sitting in the National Assembly. So for the government, of course, it's logic to say they have elected a president. Normally, there should be a majority for him.
That's the logic of the institutions.
Yes, but politics is not logic. And there are many people who say today, we are not going to give them all the power. Secondly, they voted against Sarkozy, but not always for Mr. Hollande. So they may change their mind. And I tell you that in my constituency, for instance, because I'm well known and, I know not everyone, but I've been very well, going around this constituency. There are many people who say, I voted left, but I will vote it for you. So you have in each constituency a challenge which can be different from the other one.
Right. But there is one big challenge, though, for the right that you mentioned. And there is a difference between the left and the right. It's the National Front. Because
it's very easy. It's very easy to
answer.
answer.
But just for our viewers, if you win 12.5% of the votes in the first round, you can stay in the second round. And the National Front is likely to do this. And as a result, the Conservative candidate will lose.
There is a big difference because they have the left front, but they gave the left front constituencies and to the Greens. So there is an agreement. So whatever they do, they will have those opponents. They will have those people who are going to be very critical to the social democrat government of Mr. Hollande Ayrault. That's very clear. For ourselves, it's different. There is no general agreement, but it's very likely also that because of the, as you said, that to maintain yourself on the second ballot, you need to have more than 12.5 votes of those who are listed, you know, who can vote. And that will happen very few times. So what are the people going to choose? In each constituency, they will choose according their conscience. So I'm not going to answer your question, say, who are you going to advocate? Because that depends of those people. The parties can say everything. The people will decide in the secret ballot.
I mean, would a so-called cohabitation, like it's known here, be the worst scenario? Because it's happened in the past. The president is of one political party, and the prime minister and the government are from another. I mean, do you see this as a serious possibility? And the socialists need to be quite vigilant and not overconfident, because they think that people, they change presidents, so they will change parliament.
It's always wrong to be overconfident anyway, because
I agree.
As much as you want your own party and your own family, political family, to be elected, it's the people who decide, and that it's full of unknowns, as we've just said. For the newly elected president, yes, it will be really bad, because we have a National Assembly that's not going to be in a position to implement what he wanted. Then there is the Senate, is on the left now, but again, there is a kind of a small majority there. So, there is a majority, but it's quite small. So, yes, we need, if the French people want to see François Hollande's program implemented, they need to give him the means to do so. And just having this kind of difficulty, it's funny how the right, I've been saying from the time François Hollande was elected, the left will have all the powers and it's going to be terrible. For decades, the right had all the powers,
but we did not play
and was quite content with it, and was able to implement certain policies and
Hélène,
what he wanted to defend.
Call your attention on one point.
Why could it not be the other way when the left?
No, there is no. The situation has a bit changed, because I tell you one thing. We always said that legislative election is a third round, but as I said earlier, there is a fourth round coming up, which is a reality of economy. And this is in this subject that you are very far away from your left allies, because they will give you a hard time ahead. And this is where you will have difficulties, because very quickly, the premises that Mr. Hollande said is not going to fulfill them, because the economic situation is extremely difficult, and this will be for you hard time. But the left will ask for more spending, for more increases of salaries, etc., etc., and you will be in a very difficult situation.
What's your answer to this? Unemployment hit 10%.
We met Monsieur Ayrault, the Prime Minister, on Tuesday, and he's taken the full measure of the fact that the coffers are totally empty, okay? And there's very little scope to do certain things that, the government would have wanted to do. However, I think they need to have the means to have a working team behind them and to be backed up in what they want to present in terms of legislation and changes in French society.
Taxes.
Yeah, but when Monsieur Jospin was Prime Minister, he did a very good job from
Yes,
an
but
economic
we had
point
growth
of view.
at the time.
We have these cliches
No,
that when
we
the
had
left come in
growth.
power,
Don't
they obviously
confuse
don't know how
times.
to manage the economy. It's not true. If you look back, I think when the left was in power, and it was not for long times, or enough anyway, it proved each time that it was quite capable to control the economy.
No,
and today,
Hélène,
the answer is not French. I mean, it's not just France that will give it.
Gain from what Juppé before did, that means structural reforms, and he gained, and at the time there were growth. But he has been always spending without any reforms, for instance, on this question of pension. So today you have an absolutely opposite, situation of the time of Jospin. And I'm pretty sure that what you have been announcing in terms of increasing of the minimum salary, in terms of the going back to the 60 years of pension for those who have been working at the age of 18. That's a lot of money. And you will have to increase taxes. When you increase taxes, you will have difficulties in the streets very quickly.
Do you agree?
No, of course
But
not.
that will be the result.
That's why we don't belong to the same political family, obviously. It's just a vision of society that is different than what you put first. And I would defend anybody who has started working at 17 or 18
We've
and
done
has
that.
41
17
and a half.
is done, dear.
Yeah, but
it's done. It's
41
only
and a half
18. And that's,
years of contributions
let
can
me put
actually
one
retire
thing.
when they want.
To have pension for those who are working from the age of 18, which is age of majority, you will increase on the salaries the cotizations, the taxes for pension by 7%.
But
so it's a lot of money,
How do you do away with unemployment of the young people when you actually keep people who are in their 60s and sometimes, 65 or 67, which is the case today, staying on? I mean, you actually create a kind of a blockage there.
No. But, don't confuse things. The question of growth, question of unemployment, and question of pension system.
I have to stop you here. Let's not confuse everyone because there are obviously lots of very serious issues. There'll probably be many other occasions after the verdict is out of the elections. First round of the legislative election on Sunday, second round on June 17th, and then we'll finally know if there is a clear majority or not. Thank you to both of you, and thank you for watching Politics on France 24.